Okay, so hello again. Now we're really getting towards the end of this quote here now. So we're now reaching the section of tender inclusions and exclusions. So this is important to note that the tender inclusions and exclusions is very similar to the bit that I've just shown you about a responsibility matrix, but it's specifically designed for when used in a tender situation. Okay, so again, to the best of my knowledge, you don't use both. If this is going to be a tender, for example, I'll show you what it is. You would then make sure that this is not ticked. So you would get rid of that, and instead you would tick here. So responsibility matrix is about quotes, tender inclusions and exclusions, which is effectively tender responsibility matrix, I suppose. That's specifically about tenders. So I'm going to click this one, and let's have a look and see what we got. So it's a very similar list, isn't it? Again, what's included, what's excluded. Okay, everything, almost everything appears to be included, with a couple of exceptions. So I won't bore you with what's included, other than I'll say, if for whatever reason you do not think that that particular line, and you must check these please, that particular line should not be included in the quote, then you are absolutely fine to change it or to add a product into the product, which we're going to talk about later. So I'm going to skip to the ones which are deviating from included. The first one we get is DNO witness test. That goes without saying, doesn't it? So when you do a DNO witness test, that's typically done by the DNO, and the client pays for that. Okay, one way or another. We do not swallow the cost of that. If we are to swallow the cost of it, then we must charge the customer as a product within the quote. So that's not what's being preferred here. So again, the options are none, included, excluded. Arguably, I would say that is excluded, but I guess the way this has been defaulted is it presumes that none is going to be required. If it is required, then that would possibly be changed to excluded, so the client is absolutely clear that anything like that is going to need to be paid for by themselves. To be honest with you, DNO upgrades should be none, but then should be excluded, shouldn't it? So again, you need. This is why you need to check these things, because this is built by Jess, and Jess has done the best she can based on the knowledge she has. She doesn't know whether they're included or excluded, so she's defaulted here. If you tell me anything that is defaulted is wrong, and this is one that I'm looking at straight away, I would suspect this is going to be wrong, then you let me know that that is indeed the case, okay? So I'm going to change that one for now, because I'm just showing you how it works, but that's another one that probably should be changed to excluded. Maybe the best way to do this is to default everything to excluded and force you to go through and change it to included if it is. I don't know, but your thoughts will be welcome on that. So anyway, we're going to toggle back up here now to 14. So these are all included. There's a first excluded, lightning protection. We know that lightning protection is going to be excluded, so that's why it's been defaulted to exclusion. And that's kind of it now, isn't it? But when you look through some of these, so for example, BMS included, is that right? I don't know. You need to tell me. I don't imagine we include a building management system within this. Maybe it should say connection to BMS. Maybe that is included, or maybe that's at the client's cost. I don't know. So go through these. When you see things that you disagree with, remembering that if you change anything in the default setting, it's kind of, you're doing that not just for you but for everybody. So this is something you would talk to. Now I know that I know that Russell does a lot of these as well. So for example, that will be a conversation you have with Russell. It's no good changing it unless Russell knows, because hopefully he will read this every single time, as you all will, and you will read through and check and make sure, oh, I agree or I disagree with this or that. But that's excuse me, it's important that you do. So there you go, that's really, really quick and easy one there. The tender inclusions and exclusions, the tender responsibility matrix, again, only applicable in the event that you're using a tender quote. In the event that you're using a standard quote, then it's going to be that responsibility matrix. Perhaps we should clarify that a bit more, but that's so that you know that's how we do that. Okay, and so that's the end of that, and then we're going to come back to the final section now, which is the O&M one-way distance in miles, and we will then move on to the quote, because the quote, again, really, really important part, and I'll spend some time on that in just a moment. Okay. In fact, actually, while I've got you on here, this takes no time at all. The O&M, one-way distance in miles, it's really important, this, because It is a mandatory field. You see the red flash, and because it's a mandatory field, it absolutely has to have a value in it, even if that value is 0. So in the case of this site here, for example, that the one-way distance is going to be 0. Of course it is. If it's 100 miles away, then that needs to be 100. But it needs to reflect the true one-way distance in miles. And you can pick that up from Google Maps, for example. Distance from here. It's a way in which the O&M quote evaluates the cost of the O&M quote by applying a formula to a range of values that have already been selected here. This is the final one, and that's the one-way distance in miles. So now I'm done on this section, and the next thing we're going to move on to is the actual products themselves. But I'll come back to that in just a moment, show you how that works. So there you go. That's it. Now this is the quote complete. And ready to add the products into it. This is what you should do every time to get into this discipline if you can. Get into this in every single case. I'm just going to remove that, and I'm going to put the responsibility matrix back in, and I'm going to select that. Now I'm going to end the video, and I'll move on to the products next. Thank you very much.